If you want to buy land, there are things you must be considering.
Yes.
Yeah, you just don't wake up, say, okay, I've got some moolah here, I have money, let me go out there and acquire property in the name of land. What are these things that you should be looking at?
I think the first issue is to determine the ownership. That is the owner of that land. So then would be to know whether the person selling to you has actually capacity to sell, and whether there are any encumbrances. Encumbrances is meaning it means whether there are any restrictions in terms of selling of that land. So you find that, for example, there are land where these lines, Kenya Power lines, have passed through. So in that case, when you go search, there's going to be what is known as a way leave allocated to either it's KETRACO or the company supplying that. The other issue is also in terms of encumbrances, to ensure that that land is not on a road reserve or on any form of reserve. Then also to find out what consents you might need. For example, if the land they're buying is agricultural land, you will need consent from the Land Control Board, which deals with agricultural land. If that land is close to, say, a railway line, you might need a consent from the Kenya Railway Authority. If it is close to an airport or through that line, you might also need a consent from the Kenya Airports Authority. So basically is to just learn how that land is. The first things, okay? Then also to establish the whether on the ground first, whether that land exists. We said which will mean you visiting that land. Physical visit to see the land, to see the boundaries.
Yeah.
So the boundaries are going to be demarcated. If there's no fence, there's going to be what are known as beacons. Okay, the beacons are what sets in Kenya. Those are what are used to set the boundaries. So they're going to be in all 4 squares of the land. If it is a square or a rectangle, most of the land is a square, rectangle, and things like that. So there's going to be beacons clearly stating out those demarcations. It's important for you to also measure. Just because you have been shown the beacons, to also ensure that you have seen or gone there with somebody who is able to measure and ensure that it means that it meets that measurement.
Whatever you are given on paper.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So if it is a land that has a title deed, because most lands in Kenya, you find that most lands have what is known as a title deed or a certificate of lease.
Okay, title deed and certificate of
Lease.
What is the difference between the two?
So in Kenya, there are 2 main land ownership reforms. Ownership, really. So there's what is known as freehold and what is known as a leasehold. So a leasehold is given by the government for a duration of time. So before, the government used to give, you used to hear that there were leaseholds for 999.
This means that you are going to own this land for that period of time.
Yes.
But you cannot pass it on to, let's say, a child as a form of inheritance. Maybe if that period of time falls between that lease period.
No, you can. What happens in a leasehold is that a leasehold is given for a duration of time. So at the end of that period, the land will revert back to the government.
So it's not a lifetime.
One day before, then you can make an application to renew that lease. So if it's 99 years, at the 90 and 80, at the 98th year and 345 day, if the year is 356, at the last day, that land will revert back to the government, and then you make an application for them to renew your lease for a further year, for the further duration of years.
All right. So if I was the one leasing and I did not live up to the end of those 99 years, whoever inherits my properties will be in charge, right?
Yes,
But at the end of the 99 years, this person, if they do not renew the lease, then that's
it will revert back to the state.
All right.
So what probably we should have mentioned is that as it stands, part of how land came into being is that for purposes of us to be governed, or the government, how the government really came to being is that as citizen, we gave up part of our rights for the government to govern us. Part of those rights that we gave is that it was land. And all land is considered to belong to the government. As part of those things that we gave, all land is considered to belong to the government. Then people are allowed ownership of that land. So in our instance, for example, we gave all land to the government, then the government gave it back to us for purposes of doing our social and economic activities or where to settle and things like that. Okay, so that's where the form of lease comes from. So the land is considered to belong to the government, but it has leased it out to you for a duration of time. Then after the end of that time, it will revert back to the government. So it's up to you to make an application for them to give you a further lease.
When you go for leased land,
Yes.
or you own land through lease,
Yes.
do you what does it involve? Do you pay money? Do you just go and make an agreement that you give me this land, in return I put up a business here and employ locals and stuff? What does it is it done?
So for most lands that are in a leasehold, the leasehold tenure, there are two tenures. What we are saying is the freehold tenure and the leasehold. For the leasehold, you'll find that you pay rent, annual rent to the government. Excuse me. And there's annual rent and rates. Rates are normally paid to the municipal, but rent is paid to the government. So in return of the government giving you that land, you pay an annual rent. And in most cases, in the certificate of lease, that amount payable for rent will be indicated. So in that certificate, it will indicate your name, the lease, the title number, the duration of the lease that you have, that it will show when it is commencing, and the end, the approximate acreage that you have gotten, and the rent payable. Yes.
So that is leasing.
Yes.
Then the difference with title deed?
The title deed is under a
what is
freehold tenure. So a freehold, you have basically been given that land with no condition. And you find most leaseholds are within municipalities, or before, most leaseholds were for very big land and within towns. So the other issues such as freehold were those lands that are out of Nairobi and uko mashinani.
Yeah.
So for that one, you didn't have for the freehold, you don't pay rates or rent unless that freehold is within a municipality. I know there are people in, and the main difference, for example, for leasehold is that you will find the title number reads as LR number, land reference this and this. Okay? And the title ziko kubwa sana. It's not the normal A4. Yes. Some of the leasehold were from what was before known as the Government Act. So land that was considered as a government and given by the government as a leasehold. Okay. If you look at those titles, you'll find they have so many stamps. The titles that were issued kitambo during the first land regimes. For this freeholder, the title would be, for example, Nairobi block this, Kisumu block, this, and things like that. So those ones are issued at the district levels. Yes.
All right. Utajuaje that a piece of land has got cases in court or a case in court?
Part of it is your due diligence. As you purchase land, one of the things that you need to do, this most people don't do, is to go get a map for that area, a survey map. You can get that from the Survey of Kenya. You're to establish exact that the land that you're buying is at this and this is a measurement. Then you're going to do a search at the lands registry. So depending if it is a freehold, the search is going to be done at the district, the respective district land registry. Okay. If it is a leasehold, the search will be done at the central registry. Okay, because those ones were considered the government land that moved to now the leaseholds. So the search will reveal whether who the owner of that land is, the measurement, and whether it has a case. It will also reveal other encumbrances such as charges. For example, land is used to secure loans. Okay, so it's a security for loan, and when you secure it, use your land to secure a loan facility, there's what is known as a charge that is registered. In the event also that there is what is known as a caveat. For example, if today I have a dispute and I don't want my buyer to sell the land, I'm going to go register what is known as a caveat, informing court that I am interested in this land and there's a dispute between us, or I wouldn't want my buyer to sell. If there's any order from court, there's going to be what will be registered against that title known as a prohibition, and that will reflect in the search. However, sometimes those things might not be able to be captured in the official search because some people fail to bring them to the attention of the registrars in land. So the other thing that you can do is to actually ask for a green card search in cases of freehold. So the green card search will reveal to you basically how that land has come to being or up to the stage that it is. It will also reveal to you whether it was land that had been subdivided, the history, basically the history of that land. Yes.
So if I took a loan, let's say from one of the local banks,
Yes.
and then I put or traded in my title deed
Yes.
as security,
Yeah.
can I sell that land to some other person?
It's a yes or no. So first, you can't, once a property is charged, the bank has an interest in that land. So you can't sell that land without the permission or the knowledge of the bank because it has already registered an interest on that land. So you have to inform the bank. For example, you want to sell that land to me. You come tell the bank, I have a buyer, Olivia, who is interested in buying my land. So we have agreed that she's going to pay the balance of what I owe you. Then you can discharge the property. So the bank really has to be involved in that transaction because at that stage, there's already a charge I mentioned that has been registered against. So for you to be able to transfer any interest to me, there has to be a discharge of charge first. That charge to be discharged, and then for you to be able to transfer the land. However, if you don't involve the bank and there is no discharge of charge, then you can't pass that land to me. You can't pass any interest. Yes.
And if I do that, that happens, right?
Yes.
So what happens to the new owner?
If you do what?
If in case now I did not pay or
Yes.
did not manage to repay the loan as agreed with the bank,
Yes.
and then the bank comes repossessing the land.
Um,
Legally speaking, they are the ones that
they
really
own.
own.
Yes, exactly.
So what happens to what is the new owner left to do?
the new owner can only follow the buyer can only follow now the seller to recover the money. And unfortunately, that happens with a lot of land buying companies. For example, you have had companies, land buying companies that were selling land to people, but those lands were that land was charged to the bank. So when the bank comes knocking to recover its amount, these people go to court saying that we have paid the whole amount. So the court has ruled that because there is no interest that has been passed due to the fact that that property was charged, your only recourse is to ask the person that you gave money to refund your money, and maybe with interest, because if I paid you 2 million today, when we get to 2025, it's not going to have the same value.